quick introduction. My name is Tim Buckley. I draw CTRL+ALT+DEL.
I'm Tim Buckley. I do CTRL+delete.
I'm Tim Buckley. I draw CTRL+delete.
I'm Tim Buckley. I do CTRL+delete.
CTRL+delete kicks ass, right? It's hilarious, it's innovative, and the best thing is I live like right in the same town as Tim Buckley, and he kicks ass.
I think it's awesome. I've been reading it for a while, and it incorporates a lot of the best things in life, as well as being hilarious.
Scott Buckley is a genius, period.
Say hello.
Other end.
I fucked that up.
Do you prefer to do storylines or just have like a different idea for each comic for each day?
I like to maintain a balance. I like the mix because I love to do storylines, and people love storylines. You know, kind of gets them into the comic and gets them into the characters. Well, I mean, CTRL+delete is largely plot driven. I mean, I do a lot of storylines. I mean, it's not all plot though. I mean, I do a lot of storylines, and then I break it up with one shots, and I go all over the place. Storylines are really satisfying as far as character development, and you know, certain ideas you just can't do in a single strip. But I like to, every time I do a storyline or in between storylines, I like to take a week or two and just do one shots, because on the flip side, there's a lot of ideas that you can't expand into storylines and can be put into just nice one shots. In the back.
How much of the comic is like pre-planned plot moving forward, and how much of it is kind of spur of the moment? You just get a joke and you have to run with it.
I would estimate half and half, to be honestly, and that includes some of the storylines. One shots are pretty much always spontaneous. You know, I come up with them the day before or a few days before. But there are, like, I try to plan out storylines ahead of time, but there have been instances where I just come up with a vague idea for a storyline, and I start it, and I have no idea what the fuck's gonna happen. Even though it's a storyline, I'm still coming up with it on the spot from day to day. You know, and you guys probably would know the difference. You know, which ones are planned out in the beginning, or which ones are. And there are benefits to doing it either way, because when you write something start to finish, you kind of get set into that plot. You kind of get that stuck in your head. But if you're doing day to day, you have a lot more room to cut, like let new ideas come in and pop up. You know.
Generally, it depends on how long the comic's going to be, how many panels it's going to be, how much setup there is, and the comic.
You guys down there have any input?
Who brings an umbrella to a panel?
Karen, your team does.
I like to prolong because then something else is going to happen.
No, that's
Player 2 were created because there were a lot of things, because it's what happens when you create characters with personalities, is that after a while of writing them, you know, if you're doing a decent job, they become their own people in your head. Ethan and Lucas, you know, they're the storylines. You get to know them as characters, and then you get kind of confined into the boundaries of their personality, which is to say that if I were to do some of the strips that I've done with Player 1 and Player 2, a lot of people would look at it and be like, well, you know, Lucas isn't that violent, or Ethan, you know, wouldn't do that. So I found myself wanting to do a lot of really violent strips, or strips that required characters that fell outside of the standard, you know, Ethan and Lucas dynamic. Basically, you know, I just had like a really violent itch, you know, that I wanted to scratch, but I couldn't do it with Ethan and Lucas because it would just seem really out of character for them. A lot of the strips that I wanted to do that were particularly violent also had to do with, you know, a couple of gamers playing the player 1 and player 2 slot, and so I just thought it was kind of a neat little gimmick, I guess you'd call it, to actually have them, you know, because the standard colors for player 1 is red, the standard color for player 2 is, or I'm sorry, blue and then red. So I thought it'd be neat to actually make make them red and blue with the big 1 and 2 on their shirts. Kind of like thing 1 and thing 2 almost. You know, I'm just saying that, you know, they were created for that specific purpose, you know, to be a vehicle for my, you know, violent aggression. And, you know, Ethan and Lucas, I mean, they're obviously violent, but they're violent in a different manner.
Yeah, I'll do my best. All right. Can you do that? Oh, that doesn't even break. Well, it hit the pocket of the shirt. So. Ah! Oh! Other side. Oh! 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 It like oh. Oh man, we gotta run that one off.
Where did you get the idea from Chef Brian and what he says?
Yeah. Alcohol.
Alcohol.
Alcohol. That's, yeah, alcohol. Alcohol. Too much alcohol and a deadline. I'll give you the rundown for those that don't know. When I created Chef Brian, it was way back at the beginning of my comic, and I think I was still updating like 7 or 5 days a week, and it was like midweek, and I had been drinking, and I hadn't done the comic for the next day. And you know, all of you who read my comic know that I'm very, very serious about my update schedule and my responsibility to the comic. So, you know, it was at the point where I knew I wasn't going to last much longer. I was probably going to pass out pretty soon. So I sat down to do the comic, and when I woke up, there was Chef Brian. And you know, I usually put up the comic whenever it's done, and I do the news post when I wake up. And I saw it up there, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" So I got all into like apologetic mode, and I made this big, you know, I was like, "I'm sorry, guys. You know, I went out partying, and I was drinking, and you know, blah blah blah, deadlines, and it won't happen again. I'm, you know, terribly sorry." And I started getting emails like, no, drink more. We love him. We love Chef Brian. So it became one of those things. You know, Ted falls into this category too, where it's a fluke that he became like a fan favorite. You know, he developed a following, and so by necessity, he has to keep making appearances.
So when you do them now, do you have to get drunk first to get the stories going, or?
No, not all the time.
Okay.
It's a good excuse, though. It really is.
I know you've talked about Chef Brian before and how a lot of people like him and a lot of people hate him, but just basically my question is, do you ever foresee yourself doing a strip in which Chef Brian interacts in some way with the standard characters?
Absolutely not. No. You know, for a lot of reasons. In my mind, they're two completely separate continuities.
Go to work, go to school. Well, go to school, then go to work, then come home and work on the car.
Yo, hand up in there, man. Yeah.
People don't read. I find that people skim news posts, you know, and then like, I mean, people will skim the news post, think that they understand what we're saying, and then just go right to the email button and start just firing off, you know, rants and, you know, angry emails. You know, I don't like what you do. Well, stop reading it, moron. Certain subjects are particularly touchy with people, like, oh, if I were to make fun of DDR, for instance, I find that the people who play DDR have no sense of humor whatsoever. Also, people who use Macintosh computers, no sense of humor whatsoever. No matter what I say, it's going to offend somebody. So, I mean, it's just part of my business. There are certain subjects that are very touchy, and once I find a subject that's particularly touchy, I make it a severe point just to keep fucking jabbing at it, just to piss them off.
Come on, Toby, come on! Yeah! Yeah!
How long will you continue to put the supplemental City of Heroes comics?
For those that don't know, some of you may have heard of a massive multiplayer game called City of Heroes. When that first came out, I was in the beta, and I really liked it. I did a couple comic strips about it. The executive producer of NCSoft emailed me and said, hey, thanks for those are really great comics, thanks for the write-up. Would you be interested in doing a comic strip in the back of our monthly distributed comic book? And City of Heroes is a superhero-based game, so to tie in, NCSoft is putting out a comic book about superheroes in that world. And so I actually signed a 12-month contract with them. So for 12 issues of NCSoft's comic book, I'll be doing, and then after that, it's indefinite. It depends whether I feel like I want to continue doing it, or if I've kind of said all I want to say about City of Heroes.
Because you're in a contract with them, do you feel that you have to avoid criticizing any flaws in the game within the strip?
No, actually, I discussed this in depth with them before I went forward with this contract. Obviously, the difference between working with what I'm used to on the web under my own, editorial supervision and working with a nationally distributed print publication is that obviously I can't swear, I can't do, any severe violence. But I made sure ahead of time. I was like, sometimes I may take jabs at your game. I mean, that's what I do. That's humor. And they were like, hey, that's fine. Go for it. So, I mean, I'm working under a certain roof of control, but so far they haven't vetoed anything I've given them. And actually, I think maybe the third or the fourth one just came out, but they have, the way that it works is, I submit them a comic on the 20th of each month, and 2 or 3 months later, you guys actually see it when the comic comes out. That's how far in advance we have to work. So, I mean, I've done a good 6 or 7 for them already, and they've loved every single one of them.
I really want to go back up, but it's kind of tough. Personal life gets in the way, and you, like mentioned before. What the hell?
I actually own and enjoy all 3 systems, but people automatically assume that my character's interests reflect my own. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't.
Can I trade my game for porn?
On strip 40 or something like that. And I just sort of started scribbling and putting stuff up online, and then the emails started coming in. When are you going to update the next one? When are you going to update this? Yeah, I have a terrible update schedule, but the cool thing about that is that I've always had a terrible update schedule, so the readers have been awesome and patient. That's pretty cool. There was this there was this email that I got at one point from a reader who just gushed and gushed over the webcomic and told me about how it was their one reason for living, and it gave them a hope to go on, and I had saved them and stuff like that, and they thought it was wonderful and everything like that, and I hadn't updated or checked my email for a month at this point, so I was like, update often, I guess, is the norm. The more often you can update, the better you're going to do.
And the board of strikes.
People always bug me. What are you talking about? I get it. People do nothing but bug me. I hate humans.
Every once in a while, I notice that.
No, you don't. Next question.
It's a really fast-paced game, you know, with like it's a first-person shooter, so I mean it's all about killing and blowing stuff up, and you know trying to heal my teammates and you know fix the artillery and shit. And someone's like, you know, Tim, you know, and they're typing in all caps. Obviously, it's like 'cause, you know they need my attention. And I posted explicitly like I'm on this server. I'm not gonna give out my character name. I'm enjoying it. And I got like, you know, hundreds of emails like, you know, well, I'm on this server, so you should be on this server too. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? I don't know.
I just was wondering what the viable option would be.
I think the important thing is telling your story. Also, where did I come up with Ethan? Well, the characters, Ethan and Lucas, are based very loosely, or originally they were based off of my best friend and myself. Ethan was physically a representation of me, and Lucas was of him. He's kind of, over the years, developed his own personality. I mean, whereas in the beginning, I just thought, I mean, the whole idea was, you know, hey, me and my best friend play video games and we make jokes. You know, I can turn that into a comic strip. Ethan has it's the natural progression. I mean, whenever you write a character, if you write him long enough, he becomes his own person. So now Ethan, I mean, he still obviously bears resemblance to me, but you know, he's a part of me, but he's a very exaggerated part of me. So he's just grown on his own over the course of time. I mean, through experiences and my imagination.
Uh-oh. Shit.
Don't swear, those kids.
Get it going, yeah. Hold it. Yeah, oh. Back
Lean back. He's not as rough with it as the girl was last night, I don't think. Yeah, well,
yeah, work it. Yeah.
Oh no.
I mean, you can stop someone on the street and ask them if they know what a comic book is, and 99.9% chance they're going to say yeah. But you stop that same person and ask them what a webcomic is. You know, most people have no idea yet.
I kind of busy, but definitely.
Why do you want to do comics, man? You're going to be a lawyer.
Most of the people that do this take themselves way too seriously.
Stop.
I'd say it's pretty difficult. Pretty difficult. Fuck you!
Hold it tight. Hold it tight.
I mean, like you're enjoying it.
Stick it.
Oh.
Stick it. Oh. Oh, man.
Come on.
That was horrible.
Get on there.
Legs up. Legs forward, Ryan.
Yeah, legs forward.
Yeah.
All right, pull them in. Pull them in. Work it tight.
Oh, man.
You're such a girl.
Okay, he's got to flip him.
You're gonna make this guy hate you.
How did you develop your style over time? Because I mean, like CAD specifically, the way Ethan and Lucas are drawn from the very beginning through like, the first year, they changed considerably.
Oh, definitely. My entire life, I've drawn comic books, like comic book style. You know, very realistic but exaggerated at the same time. When it came time to draw a comic strip, I realized that I was going to have to develop an entirely new style just for the strip, which is why you see such a huge progression over the even up until now. I mean, if you look at the first strip and the last strip, I mean, there's a huge difference, and the reason for that is because you saw everybody gets to see me learning how to draw that way. You know, I mean, the very first strip is pretty much the very first time I drew in that style. So as I kept doing it, I was finding ways. I was like, well, this is a quicker way to do this. This is easier. This looks better, and just gradually changed. So that's why there's such a big deal, is because, or such a big difference, was because I never had that time to practice beforehand. And it actually took me a while to find out what worked best for me, because when I started, I was doing 7 days a week, and it didn't take long to burn out on that. So I dropped it down to 5 days a week, and then 3, and then bumped it back up to 4, where I've been at for probably about 2 years now. And that works pretty well for me, but you know, because I'm a big, when people ask me, you know, what do I need to know to start a webcomic, the one piece of advice I always give is to choose an update schedule that you can stick to. Yeah. Because there's nothing worse than, you know, checking your favorite site, and you know, new comics not up. You know, as someone said earlier, reliability is a big deal for getting fans to come back. I spend about 3 to 4 hours per strip, 4 times a week, plus all of the business side, you know, doing the paperwork and the managing the business aspect. So I would say, yeah, I don't know. I was going to try and add it up for you, but
It's a long time.
Let me put it this way. Right now, I'm working about 14 hours a day, because I'm in the middle of, it's like the really busy season for me. I'm putting together volume 2, my second book. So right now, it's like 12, 14-hour days every day. Those kinds of questions, like what's best, it really comes down to, you know, it's all on you. Like what's best for you, because my philosophy is that the only person that you're guaranteed to please 100% of the time with your comic is you. Never mind. Just for the record, that was the moment where I tried to get serious. You just fucking blew it. Gloves are off from here, baby.
Own that bull! Stick it! Stick it! You love it! You love it! Come on, man! Squeeze with the legs!
Squeeze your leg tight.
I am. He's like, this is all the strength I have.
Oh my god.
Hey, we're up. Alright.
You ever get any hate mail from like fans of the movie Catwoman about that?
There are no fans of the movie fans. You know, no, I don't think I did for that one. I think pretty much everybody in the world agreed with me on that one.
Oh no, no! You got it? Oh god! Oh, I can't have kids anymore! You weren't gonna anyway, you needed a woman.
That was way too fast.
He hears it all the time. How are we gonna get anybody else to grab the ball? Get back on. Okay, girl. Come on. Suck it up. Suck it up.
Alright, Alright, I'm still,
Suck it up.
I don't know if I'm going to run out of time. I'm just doing a continual on this one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It's the last one anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
Toby, I believe in you.
He's going to throw the shit out of him this time.
Come on! Oh no!
Is there any inspiration for Scott, or is he just stereotypical hippie?
Yeah, there wasn't a specific inspiration for Scott. And actually, to be perfectly honest, when I first wrote him, I didn't have a plan for him. I didn't even have a personality outline for him. I just, for some reason, I was like, the strip needs a new character. Bam, and I threw him in there. And he had the worst character introduction I've ever done in my life. And he had, I was like, all right, well now I have a new character. What am I going to do with him? He's not based off anybody. He was a mistake, to be perfectly honest, that I kind of have to live with now. A lot of people like him. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about Linux, so he's very hard to write. But no specific inspiration, just a fucked up mistake on my part.
Why did you decide to draw a penguin into the strip?
Why did I decide to draw a penguin?
Because he's awesome.
Actually, you can thank my forum members for that. It was way back at the beginning of the strip, and my community was still rather small, and I think what happened was, it may have come before I added Scott. I added Scott, and either when I added him or shortly before, there was a thread on my forums, people talking about, oh, the comic's this and that, and somebody said, this comic needs penguins. And they actually specified that my comic needed penguins with a laser on its head. But just as a joke on, like throwing a bone to them, thought they'd get an extra laugh out of that, I put Ted in the strip. Again, another character that I had never planned to keep in there, but as soon as he went in, he just immediate fan base. And he kind of got locked in. I had to keep bringing him back. And people always email me, why don't you put Ted in there more? They love Ted. I like Ted. I mean, he's a penguin. Who doesn't love a penguin? But you have to understand, he doesn't say anything. It's a little difficult to write a whole lot of, humor around a character that can't say anything at all. So that's why. I mean, Chef Brian makes his appearance every once in a great while for two reasons. A, because that type of humor gets very old very quickly, and B, because his fan base is split right down the middle. Ted makes an appearance every once in a while, specifically because there's only so much I can do with him. As much as anybody loves him, I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of function.
Well, I scheduled it for 2 hours to make sure we had plenty of room, so yeah, we have 45 minutes if you really want to stay with us.
Look over there.
These guys are always...
Stop that!
Yeah, we've been here for an hour and a half now. We're just fucking stupid.
If you're going to beat us, we might sell you off.
Actually, it's Goggle Girl sometimes. Apple versus PC.
All right, I think we're going to have to end this soon. I mean, honestly, I do this because I love to do it. I mean, I wake up every morning and I'm thankful. I'm really grateful that I get to do this for a living. And if the bottom dropped out tomorrow, I would go get some crappy job at Best Buy again, or waiting tables, and I would hate it. I would hate every minute of it, and I probably would have to cut back on the work I do on the strip, but I wouldn't drop it altogether. I don't foresee an end to Control-Alt-Delete anytime in the near future. I mean, that's one of the reasons I chose the style of strip that I did. Half of it was, I was like, well, hey, I know this material, I can make jokes about it. But also I realized early on that there's always going to be new video games, new movies to make fun of. So I'm not going to run out of material, in that sense. So, yeah, I mean, I'll continue doing it. And I love it today every much as the day I started. So I can't imagine it. It's become such an enormous part of my life. I mean, my whole life has been changed by, the popularity of the webcomic, getting involved in conventions, the whole bit. So I honestly don't even want to imagine my life without Control-Alt-Delete.
Oh.